Okay, back-to-back reviews. Bear in mind, we have only recently finished Hellpoint as a incomplete review because the game broke on us. But Mortal Shell is our next review, and we've put 15 hours into the game, ending the game in a fabulous way, which then triggered New Game Plus if you wanted to do New Game Plus, or pretty much you can continue your adventure, leaving the boss area, so you have to obviously come back and kill him to trigger New Game Plus. So Mortal Shell review on the Xbox One X. It is a 4 gig file. It is square on, I think it's like 401 or something like that. It's a 4 gig file, single player Dark Souls experience type game. So again, if you're involved in the Souls games, this is going to cater to you straight off the bat. Single player only though. There is no online, there is no multiplayer aspect to this game whatsoever, so you cannot play with a friend. So this does kind of separate some of the core fans of Dark Souls in a way, because majority of people that I know love to play Dark Souls co-op with a friend. So if you take the co-op aspect away, some people are just not interested in it. So we'll break this game down just like we do with every other game. We'll do it in the same way, looking at the same criteria. Then I'll give you obviously the pros and cons. We'll give you the notes that I've managed to get down while playing this game, a scoring, and then a recommendation. So very first thing that we like to look into is the soundtrack. As I say in all my videos, the soundtrack, in my opinion, can make or break a video game. And the soundtrack to Mortal Shell is, I'd say, above average. It's boss music is not heroic enough for me, in my opinion. It is a above basic melody tone that goes on in each of the boss rooms, and it's nothing that blows me away. I'm gonna be completely honest itself. Because I'm so spoiled with Bloodborne and with Dark Souls and all those type of Souls games, the boss music in those fights are epic opera type Clash of the Titans type music. It is suspense music that keeps you going, and Mortal Shell doesn't really have that type of soundtrack, in my opinion. It's all right. It is all right, but they could have put a lot more effort into the boss fight music to make it a little bit more epic, because that to me is important, and that's something that will stick with me forever, because I've been spoiled by Dark Souls type games that all have amazing boss musics. So I'd say just a little bit above average of a soundtrack, but it didn't take my breath away, and it wasn't overly amazing. So something that they could work on if they do a Mortal Shell 2. Effects and voice acting. The voice acting in this game is really cool. Really cool. The majority of the characters all having a very deep tone voice itself. Even you can actually speak to a frog in the game itself, who actually has dialogue as well. But just like the Soul games, all the NPCs have their own voice actor or actress. The main boss in the game has a very deep tone, really deep tone voice, which sounds really awesome in my headset connected to the DSS adapter. So I mean, I would always say the same thing. If you're ever playing a brand new game, always try to wear a headset, or if you've got a good sound system, utilize it as much as you possibly can do, because that sort of stuff can make or break games. So you want the best experience possible. So voice acting, it was good. I found it enjoyable. I didn't have any issues with it. I didn't hear any stuttering. I didn't hear any glitching in the voices. I didn't hear any break points. Like I can't complain about it. I really can't. And the effects on the actual game itself, very loud. I actually had to turn down a lot of the audio tab. They give you a lot of audio choices, which is great, between the music, the user interface sound, the sound effects within the game itself, the voice acting. You can turn quite a lot of it down, and I'm glad they gave me that option, because some of the areas in the game get very loud, so I had to turn them down. But I found no issues. So I'm not going to be deducting any points off of the audio aspect of the game itself. I just wish they did a better job with the soundtrack in the boss fights, because that to me is the key aspect of any Souls game, is the epic clash between your character and a boss. Next thing we're going to look at is graphics. The graphics in this game are very grayscaled, very dull, dark tone colors. There isn't a lot of areas in the game that have very vibrant and bright and glorious color. It's very olden in a way. There is an area of the game where you get to explore in a snowy mountain type area, which looks really nice. But during the fog events and in the woods itself, it's all dark browns, dark greens, very, very, very blandish. And it works really well for the game. It really does. I'm not going to say it looks crappy. I'm just going to say it works really well for the atmosphere in the game. I at times found it a little bit awkward to see through the forest fog, and my targeting would get thrown off just a wee bit, just because my perception in the woods itself was just a little bit off, and I couldn't focus as much. But the game looks extremely impressive in terms of the effects that you see, especially with some of the NPCs that you encounter and some of the areas that you visit within the certain parts of the game. They look absolutely glorious, and I'm trying really hard not to spoil anything, which is why I'm repeating some of the shit that I'm saying. But for what you get in a 4 gig game, the game looks great. Dark Souls Remaster is around about a 7 point something gig game, so this is almost half the graphical 7.1 gig game for Dark Souls Remaster. But this game uses a hell of a lot of dark tone, doomy gloomy type colors, which in my opinion definitely works for the area. That's all I'm gonna say. Didn't notice any texture glitches. I didn't notice any texture bugs within the game, or missing details, or lazy graphics, as I like to say, where developers just paint it black and just say, yeah, we're done with it. I think they did overall a great job, and this is not a AAA game as well. This is made by a much smaller team, and visually the game looked, for me it looked pretty damn good. And some of the effects that you could do, some of your magic effects as well within your weapons, they look really awesome. So I'm just going to say a thumbs up. Great job. I thought the game looked pretty cool. And I don't feel there's any need to knock off any sort of points off the game at all, because I just think it played itself out really well. Ooh, gameplay and mechanics. Right, if you are a shield user in any of the soul type games, this game's gonna punish you quite a lot. There are 2 ways to negate or deflect what's happening within the game, especially when you're being attacked. One of them is you can harden yourself, which pretty much pings attacks off of you, and that works really well when you're in a oh fuck situation and you know you're about to get hit and it's going to hurt like hell. There are some moves that you cannot parry, which means the attack, your artifact on your back will glow red to alert you that you're about to get hit by an attack you cannot parry. But if you manage to execute a parry ability in this game, you can leech health from an enemy. You can use certain modifications to your parry move to cause explosive damage, freeze damage and stuff like that. I'm again trying hard not to spoil it for you, but this game seriously punishes you super hard if you think you can just run around and hold a shield up and defend yourself the whole time. Because I see a lot of people, that's how they play when they first play these type of games. This game is not easy to get into. I would actually say that some of the Dark Souls games are easier to play than Mortal Shell is. But the core aspect of Mortal Shell is to use your hardened ability and use your Perry leech ability to keep yourself alive, because there comes a time where you will run out of healing items pretty quick. And you've got mushrooms that you can consume. You've got crispy rats. I know, cooked crispy rats you can eat, which will give you healing over time. But once you run out of those items, you have to solely rely on your parry leech ability to keep yourself alive, or you're just going to die. Because the enemies in this game, they hit really, really hard. 3 hits on some enemies is enough to insta-kill. That's it, you're dead. And they do it in very, very quick succession as well. This game is about learning every enemy that you come into contact with and studying their moving, watching how they move and how they sway, watch the weapons that they have. Some enemies don't have actual weapons and they will come at you with their claws and try to slice you to death. So this game's all about taking your time to study the enemies and watch how they attack, and pretty much use your hardened ability when you're in a oh shit moment, or use your parry ability to deflect the attack and then deal some seriously massive damage. There's a small variety of weapons within the game itself. You start off with a heavy sword. I wouldn't say it's a single hand sword, because your character uses both hands to swing it and he carries it on his shoulder. Then you got a massive long ass sword, really huge sword. You have a long heavy mace, staff type weapon, and you have my favorite, which was the hammer and chisel, which was, for me, that was the dexterity build in the game itself. You also have 4 unique vessels, and those are bodies that you can possess, would be the best word. You possess the bodies that you find, and once you've found them, you keep them, and you can switch between them using a effigy item, or when you go back to a safe area, your safe home, you can actually just go up to the crypt that you with the name on it, and then you inspect the body, and then you take over that body and use it. And because they all have their own stats and all their own abilities, it helps mold different play styles. There is a tanking knight with massive armor, huge health bar, but very low stamina bar. You've got the dexterity type stamina thief sort of a character, which has a low health bar, but has the biggest stamina bar in the game. You start off with a character that pretty much has like an average trait set. And then you find my favorite character, which had more health, more reflex, and a little bit more stamina than the average body itself. Don't get me wrong, you don't have to use them if you don't want to. There is actually an achievement within the game that it's basically hardcore mode, where you're not allowed to use any vessels, as in possession. You can't possess any of the bodies, and you run around as your initial body, but your health bar is like that big. So pretty much one hit, KO, you're dead, good night, have fun, rage quit, break the disc. So it like I said, this game is not easy. This game is not as easy as a lot of the Souls games. I would actually recommend them over this if you're starting to get into it. If you are looking for the challenge, then Mortal Shell will give you that challenge. It's definitely hard right off the get-go as well. And I'm trying to think. The game utilizes a good mixture of enemies. I wouldn't say it's a great mixture, because there's reskins that are done in each area. The ghosts pretty much all have they're all the same. They're just a different color, but they have a different ability, and that's really it. And they just smack. It's the same. But I wouldn't say there is a massive variety of enemies in the game. What makes this game pop for me are the 4 key boss fights that you engage. And I'm not going to tell you about them, because again, I'm trying to remain as spoiler free as possible, but I'm going to say they look fantastic. They really do. Some of them are easy compared to others. I had no problem with the first 2 boss fights that I went to. The third boss I went into completely demolished me multiple times because his attack pattern was so wild-like, and it was so uncoordinated. He was all over the place. He was like a loose monkey. It was really hard to predict what he was going to do. And what's great about this game, just like what they do in Dark Souls, is there's no wrong path. You can go to multiple areas of Mortal Shell and you will get lost. I'm telling you that right now. You will get lost multiple times, but you can go to any of the bosses that you want to. You can pick which one you want to do first by entering the area and then clearing that area out to do the boss. So good luck, and I hope you don't get the one I hated first, because he sucked. So in terms of gameplay, like I said, it's a hard Dark Souls game without a shield, and you're using your hardened and your parry ability to pretty much get you through the game. Mechanic wise, very similar. You got the easy dodges, you got the parrying, the hardened ability. Each one of your weapons also has an ultimate ability, which you need to charge up and use. And to be fair, my ultimate ability for my hammer and chisel weapon saved my life in some of the boss fights rooms. So I'm so glad I got to utilize that. That's all I can really shed up for gameplay and mechanics without going into any sort of heavy spoilers or anything that might ruin the game. Just take your time. Do not rush it, because it is very difficult. If you do end up dying, just like a Dark Souls game, I hate saying this over and over again, but I always reference it to a Dark Souls game because it is a Souls type game. You get the chance to run back and retrieve your what you basically had consumed at that point, and if you die before you get there, you do lose it. I do love, this is one thing I really love, I love the item mechanic that they use in this game. You pretty much pick up an item and the description is use it to find out what it does. And I love that mechanic, because that you've got to be brave. Some of the items that you pick up, you look at it and you think, this is gonna kill me. If I consume this, I'm gonna die. And you gamble. You pretty much have to gamble, and your character learns about the items when they consume them. And I love that. I think that is a really, really cool, awesome awesome item system within the game. Can you imagine if more games utilize a system like that, where you find something on the floor that looks like a nice item and it says use it to find out what it does, and you use it and you die because it was poisonous or something. I don't know. I just think it's a brave system to utilize, and I really liked it a lot. Replayability and game difficulty. I've already spoken about game difficulty, so we'll move that along. But replayability, that you do get hit with a decision at the end of the game whether or not you want to finish the last boss off properly, which will then trigger New Game Plus, which means the game resets and you take everything that you've got with you into New Game Plus. Or you could leave and it will put you basically into the safe room, which you can then continue exploring if you wish to find anything that you might have missed. Now, it's again very similar to Dark Souls. You choose. If you feel that you're ready to cross over into New Game Plus, go for it. If you don't, then you can run around and you can continue to explore all the areas that you might have missed to try and complete your lore, which is in the game options. You've got a lore which you can fill up every time you find a new item. It gets put into that lore book for you. So if you're aiming for a 100% completion ratio, the game aids you with that. All you got to do is complete the book and then use all the items to maximum. So it's called familiarity. So once you're super familiar with the item, you unlock bonuses for that item because you know everything about it. So if you use a healing item over and over and over again and your character masters using that healing item, you get a bonus of extra healing every time you use it, which I thought was pretty nifty. So this game definitely has a lot of replayability. My first playthrough itself took just over 15 hours. I mean, I know I can easily complete Dark Souls in less than 15 hours. I know I can do it in less than 5 hours. It's a very simple game when you know what you're doing. But at the same time, Mortal Shell would also become one of those easy games that get easier and easier the more you do it. So yeah, 15 hours of my first playthrough. I could probably cut that in half for a second playthrough. So this game definitely has replayability in it. Story, if applicable. I hate saying this because I said this during Hellpoint, and I've said this about Bloodborne, I've said this about Dark Souls, I've said this about a lot of different Soul types games. These games are really awkward and hard to understand for me. Trying to run through the game for the very first time, listening to the NPCs, listening to the dialogue, reading the back lore and all that lot, it got confusing. It really did get confusing. It did get better. I'd say at about the 10-hour mark, it did get slightly better for me and I was starting to understand it. But even now, I still think I need to do more than one playthrough just to fully understand exactly what's going on. Once you've gathered the glands from the bosses and return those items, it starts a whole world of misery for you. But again, I can't really talk too much about it because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But if you are comfortable knowing that the story is a little bit complex to understand and it would take multiple gameplays for you to understand how to do everything, not how to do everything, but to understand what's going on in the world of Mortal Shell, then great. Great, awesome, good for it, good luck. Co-op online, modes, features and stability. Co-op online is not in the game. Don't need to talk about it. There are no modes other than story mode. That's it. It's just one main mode within the game itself. Features and stability. I could talk about stability in the same time I can talk about glitches and bugs. I didn't come across vast amount of glitches and bugs. Only maybe one or two a bit iffy things, but they were just the hitboxing can be a bit finicky with certain mobs because they can toggle target your character. So when you're running left and right, they're following that movement. They can actually monitor your left and right and pounce on you. If you're running in one direction for too long, they can predict that and pounce where you're going to go. It's the same with the archers. The archers shoot where they think you're going to go. So be very, very, very careful when you come in contact with stuff like that. Purchase price versus digital price and value of content. The game is $24.99 digital. They are going to launch a physical copy in October. I don't know why it's in October. I'm not going to lie. Kind of sounds a little bit weird releasing the digital and the physical across two separate dates. I would have just done it all in one go, to be completely honest. But the physical, these are UK prices. The physical copy is going to be £30. You can get the digital version for £25, so it's £5 cheaper. In my opinion, go digital. You might as well, because it's cheaper at the end of the day. Unless you're a collector of games and you want to have that copy of this game on your shelf, you're going to have to wait until October. So, sorry. Not sorry. Do I feel there is a value for content? 15 hours for a £30 game? Yes. With replayability as well? Oh, hell yes. I do. 100%. So I'm definitely going to say this game definitely has value for content. Microtransactions. I checked the store. I didn't see anything else that I could grab with with Mortal Shell. I didn't see any other additions as well, unless I just completely missed them. But when I typed a physical copy of Mortal Shell in Google, I only got the standard physical copy for $29.99, which is launched in October. I didn't see a special edition, I didn't see a deluxe edition, and I didn't see a collector's edition. So I don't know if they're going to launch that at some point. We'll just have to wait and see. I doubt it, to be fair, because it's not a massive AAA company. But that's pretty much the review template demolished. So I'm going to go ahead and close the template. We'll go through any of the notes to add more context to the review, which I might not have talked about. We've already spoken about the 4 vessels. Hard mode altar found early in the game to create a player challenge. So there was a very weird altar that we found while crawling through like a rabbit hole, and it said, would you like to hand over all your vessels and play without it, which would pretty much mean that you're running around with a health bar that big. So that to me is like hardcore mode. Good luck. If you're trying it, good luck, because you're gonna need it. Trust me. Some of the enemies hit so hard and so fast that it's very hard to predict their movements, and it's very hard to parry when you need to. So good luck with that. No minimap system and no indicator where your body is after you've died. I do feel this game... I mean, I am spoiled sometimes with games giving me maps. And when I've played Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, The Surge, and stuff like that, do you get a map system? No, you don't. You're running around pretty much blind. But some of the areas in Mortal Shell are ridiculously big. And even right now, if I was to do New Game Plus after 15 hours, I would not be able to explore the forest knowing where everything is off by heart. I would easily get lost. I don't know if a mini-map would help that situation, but it would be nice to have a mini-map or have some sort of a system that highlights where you've died previously so you can run back to it and find it. Maybe put a crystal marker over your body and a meter countdown. So when you're running towards it, the countdown goes down to 0, which helps guide you back to where your body is. Because I died quite a lot. I'm not ashamed of that. I died quite a lot. It's a new game. I'm trying it for the first time, and a lot of the time, I couldn't find where my body was. It got really annoying really fast. So I don't know if they can improve that sort of a system by doing maybe a marker system on your body, or maybe if they do Mortal Shell 2, they incorporate that sort of an idea just to help the player find where their body was when they died. Not going to talk about that because that's a spoiler. I do feel that there is a low variety of weapons in the game, the same as there is a low variety of vessels that you can possess. 4 to me just seems on the lower side. It really is. If they would have maybe done 6, I wouldn't have mentioned it. Maybe 6 bodies that you can possess and maybe 6 weapons that you can utilize. Because the variety is just not there with the weapons and the possession. I know if you was to run this game professionally, you could probably get it done in probably maybe, I don't know, about 4 or 5 hours, maybe less than that. I don't even know what the speed... I bet there's a speed world record already being done by professionals. But I just felt that there was a slight lack of weapons and vessels as well. More vessels would have been nice. There is no customization options within the game itself, so you can't customize any of your armor. You can't customize any of the coloring that you have. You can upgrade your weapons if you want to consider that as customizing, but there's nothing that you can visually alter or change within the game itself. And maybe that's something that they might want to look into in Mortal Shell 2 if they do another game, maybe giving you the options to customize that vessel that you're using, making them a bit unique. But I did really like the designs of the Mortal Shell. The vessels that you took over, the knights looked fucking amazing. And the character that I used, the armor set, made him look like a death walker with a death mask. It looked really, really, really cool. So there are pros there and there are cons there for me. That's all I'm going to really say. Everything else I've pretty much covered in the breakdown review aspect. So all that leaves me to do now is to offer the recommendation, whether or not I would recommend this to you, and then give it a scoring out of 10. It's as simple as that. So would I recommend this game to a new player to the Souls franchise? No, because this would be hard for you. I would recommend easier Soul games before you jump into Mortal Shell. If you are if you're immediate to an expert in the Souls game, 100% I would recommend this game to you, especially as it has a great price point. It has a good amount of time that you can sink into it with replayability, and overall I had a fantastic time playing this game. I really did. So I am going to make a personal recommendation to those specific people. Yes, I would definitely recommend picking this up. Out of 10, this game works, playable, challenging, entertaining. Soundtrack could have been a little bit better in boss fights, a few more vessels and a few more weapons. Other than that, I don't have that much to complain about. I really don't. So with everything said and done, if they could have made the story lore easier to understand and easy to acknowledge what's happening, because I would rather know everything about the game in one playthrough. That's me personally. But if I was to score it, I would be happy giving this Mortal Shell a 8 out of 10. That's my personal opinion, my overall thoughts and input about the game. What you do with this information is completely up to you, whether or not this coaches you into going to pick up the game yourself and giving it a try, or holding back and maybe waiting for it to go on sale, or just not picking it up at all and saving your money. But I think an 8 out of 10 because I had a great amount of fun with it. The boss fights were fantastic. They really freaking were, and some of them were definitely challenging itself. But what takes the points off of it is I would have liked more weapons. I would have liked more vessels. Maybe 1 or 2 more boss fights would have been fantastic. The soundtrack during the boss fights could have been amped up and made a bit more exciting. But yeah, I personally feel an 8 out of 10 is justified because it worked. The game didn't crash on me once. The game didn't break on me once. Not like Hellpoint, which, you know, every time we turned a corner, we encountered a brand new freaking bug. So, yeah, I have to give it to them. But it was published by Playstock and developed by Cold Symmetry. I've got to give it to you. I think you've done a great job with the size of your team, because your credits gave away how small your team was. Visually, the game looked great as well. So, good job. And I do look forward to seeing what you do next with the series. If you make a Mortal Shell 2. Yeah, other than that, I'm happy ending this review. Done.